Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Then celebrate it with or without champagne or rum.
Oh, here we are. It's a Wednesday, thank goodness, and we're here. Thankful I got Alexis here with me, superstar, and someone I could literally talk with all day. My friends, if you're here, please drop us a comment, say hello, say hi. Tell us where you're joining us from. Say what's on your mind, and of course, you're welcome to talk about a topic. Why not? So if you have a thought on do what you love or love what you do, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, I'm trying to set my YouTube. Alexis, how are you doing?
I am doing just fine, thank you. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day.
Yes, there's a hoo-ha on the news. One of a right-wing person apparently has been killed and shot dead in the US. It's all over our news. It's on your news as well, right?
Who was
No?
killed? No, I haven't even looked at anything today. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Donald Trump says 31-year-old right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk
Okay.
that has shot, apparently. So I have no idea who he is until now. And I said, but our news is all over. It's almost like there's no other news in the world, apparently. Well, these things happen, right? Yeah. LinkedIn user, hello. Who's LinkedIn user? I don't know who LinkedIn user is. I suppose I might as well open my LinkedIn event page so I can start seeing who is here. Look, I'll admit I fell asleep. I had my last show. I sat down to start doing my inviting, and I lost my mind. Oh, welcome. I see you, Chanda. How you doing? So Chanda is one of my co-authors, so part of my family for the COVID lessons we learned from COVID book behind me. How you doing, Chanda? Great to see you, my friend. Great to see you. I'm glad you're here. We do need to catch up soon. I just said this in the DM yesterday, so I'm so glad you're here. Look, you're welcome to join the studio if you want to come and share with us. If you feel strongly about this topic, so there's many more people here. So, my friends, do say hi. So I can see you're here, but I can't see who is here. So unless you say something in the comments, I don't get to see that is you. I'm glad you're here, though. So this, Chanda, hopefully I will say when I will talk, and then hopefully we can begin to see and support you on your journey. So we're going to even talk straight after the show, Chanda. So hopefully, so we can offer you support that might make things a bit better, right? Look, if you want to join the studio to share, you're welcome, my friends. That's it. The event page does have the link, the studio link on it. So, Liana, I see you. Welcome. Let me make sure that the event page. Now, before I carry on waffling, as Alexis is one of my truly, my beloved superstars. I say that very honestly. Say with almost every book I do these days, Alexis is part of the company. Is part of the process. Alexis, do me a favor. Why don't you tell our friends what you do, how you help?
Well, I edit. What I do is I take the manuscript, that raw manuscript, and I read it and I look at it with a critical eye because we want it to express the author in the voice, and so that their message is clear to the readers. And so that's what I do. I go through it several times.
Yes, I mean, you do a lot more than that. So of course you are the writing coach. That's
Yes.
I recommend. Obviously, you're also the writer. So,
Yes.
I'm doing more writing these days, but say if someone wants help to write their book, you're the one I will call. And someone wants
Oh,
a book
please.
written
Thank
like a
you.
ghostwriter, you're the one that will call. So you do a lot more than just correcting spelling, and grammar. So so
Um,
everyone needs an Alexis in their lives, especially if you want to be an author. There's no other way of doing it.
yeah, I
So
love writing. Yes. I'm,
you're a genius at it. So it's it's a joy. It's a joy. It's a joy to have you in the studio as well because I
oh,
think
thank you.
we need friends who have an opinion, who have a thought about the topics that we talk about because otherwise I'll be talking to myself, right? And I don't want that. I'm sure more of my friends will join the conversation as we go on. I say that because I fell asleep and I haven't had time to invite everyone I want to invite. But if you know me, my friends, I'm clicking as we speak, right? So so I do carry on speaking, I do carry on clicking, and eventually I'll get to where I was meant to be. But I know as long as you're here, so we can have the conversation that will help us, will help people to learn something. Right. So this room, being your authentic self in business, is all about, I guess, being our real selves. What's it mean to be your real self in business? Why is that even important? But the reality is this, my friends. In business, yes, I think we tend to think or believe that what we know, what we do, so our knowledge, our technical skills is what makes our business work. So in reality, my friends, I guess this room started on the premise with my mindset coach, Donna Martin. And we started this room on the premise that, you know, in reality, you build your business based on 98% mindset and 2% what you know. Hence, being your authentic self in business essentially involves you building your mindset as the way to build your business. And I say, the day I discovered that fact, my business has changed. From struggling and going around in circles, suddenly, so I have a business that makes money. I have a business that serves customers, a business that actually does what it's meant to do. One that serves. I get to live my purpose as well, of course. I get to find joy in what I do. So Alexis and I will complement each other. So she does the technical bits, especially making sure the book is right, and I do the layout and publish it. But as I say, a lot of what we do will come down to how we think. With clarity of thought, with the right thoughts, with the right thoughts, we can build a business. That's where this room starts from, and that's probably where this room ends as well, right? Now, so our topic today is a big topic in terms of what we need to do to build our business. You see, now years ago, I guess, and it's something that I think we have heard over and over and over and over. Follow your passion, said Mr. Steve Jobs on stage to a group of university graduates. Follow your passion. And then, extended by extension, do what you love. Yeah. I see you. I see you, Peter. How you doing? Glad you're here. Say, Mr. Muscleman. We don't see you enough these days, Peter, but I'm glad you're here. So right here, right there with you, regardless of what you believe that shouldn't have happened. Okay, that's a news thing, right, Peter? No, but thanks for being here. Sharon Rose, a superstar. So glad you're here. America, I see you, my friend. Glad you're here. I love this room because the big people turn up. And you are the big people, by the way. You really are. But I appreciate everyone that spends the time with me and everyone that shares some of their thoughts. Right. Okay. So this topic, this follow your passion thing, uh, how do I put it? I think we all need to eventually find something that we love doing. Of course we do. Who wants to be stuck in a business that they don't like what they do? No one. Who wants to be stuck in a job or in a role that they don't like what they do? I say no one, right? We all want to love what we do. The question I'm really asking tonight is, where do you start? What do you say to your 16-year-old self, maybe 18-year-old self? Do you say, follow your passion? Or do you say, there is another way to find your passion? That's a real conversation, you see? I think follow your passion is it's a red herring. It's a lie. Yeah. You might think I'm mad, but I think no. I think all the evidence points to the fact that following your passion is going to lead you down the wrong path. It's going to lead you to nowhere. It's going to lead you to disappointment. It's going to lead you to pain. It's going to lead you to heartbreak. Using Chandra's words. Follow your passion is a road to ruin. Right. So I can probably hear you asking, so if I don't follow my passion, what am I meant to follow? Right. I think there's another way, my friends. The other way is follow your skill, follow your interests. Probably a better idea. Follow your interest to find your passion. Yeah, I just said it right. That's a simple answer. Follow your interests. Forget your passion. Your passion will come with time. You can't just follow your passion. If you follow your passion, just think what that means. If you told your 18-year-old self to follow your passion, where would you be now? I would say, without even knowing you and what you may do or not do, I truly believe if you did follow your passion, you'll be by now in trouble. Actually, a friend of mine told me recently, a very clever lady, and she's like, Emmy, don't start a business with what you love doing, with your passion, with your hobby, so to speak. Because as soon as you start a business in it, you're going to hate doing it. I was like, no. She goes, no, think about it. She goes, stop, just think about it. I'm like, I thought about it. I thought, you're right. Because you see, well, this follow your passion thing suggests I just love doing what I do and I love every part of it. In reality, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that. Everything involves some challenging things. Some things that you don't want to do. So if you start a business based on your passion, you're gonna get to hate your passion because suddenly what you used to do for fun now becomes a chore, now it becomes a job, now it becomes people have expectations, people have deadlines. Damn, even running a business that you say that you're passionate about, you soon realize that there are parts of business that you don't like. The admin, for example, the sales. Maybe it's even doing the job itself, right? Because your hobby, when it becomes your job, now demands what I call mastery. It demands a level of skill, a level of delivery, which now becomes pressure, becomes something else. It starts becoming fun, basically, right? That's my thinking. Alexis, what's your thoughts? Did you follow your passion to get this far?
That is such an excellent question. It's a yes and no. And a lot of what you mentioned, I can relate to. I started at a very early age, and I really have to qualify this. People have to understand when I say that I was 10 years old when I won my first writing contest, and the teacher entered into, like, county and all that. For some reason, because I was always reading, but I did not think of that, like, this is what I want to do. It just was something I did. And so as time progressed, I found that I did very well, no matter what the subject was, in the writing parts of it. And so it was a joy for some reason, because, well, let me jump ahead. When working in publications, in various stages of it, when you get a concept and people come together and to build it, and once it goes to publications, it's published, there is a form of elation and a form of letdown. But along the way, and this is part of following your passion in any way, there are a lot of struggles, ups and downs, disappointments, roadblocks, and really sometimes, to be honest, you just sit there and go, why? Really? Why am I doing this? But it is a passion with me. It is a joy, but you have to be extremely practical and ask yourself questions. Do I really like this? Can I make a living? How do I go about it? It's a lot of work and a lot of struggle. And I not only started when I said that early, but I did start writing civically at 20. And then somewhere by the time I was 24, 25, I was working in various types of publications sparsely. But I had to really find out, ask a lot of questions, and I had to start studying the markets. Where could my talent lead me? Editing, writing, and then I became a coach. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of strategy, and all those things that you said with the pain and the disappointment. Yes, but in my case, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I think any passion, anything that brings you, that you feel that you could do well, and you believe that you could make a living at it, you really have to organize yourself, and you really have to focus, and you can't give up. Even though sometimes you think, well, I give up, because there are days. So, you probably know that there are days you probably have wondered why when you were first organizing. What am I doing? So, but there are rewards, and but to just say, oh, it's my passion and follow it, that could lead to a lot of disappointments.
I couldn't agree more. I think that you're saying what I'm saying, I think, which is, don't follow your passion. Love what you do. And in that journey, you will find your passion. You find your passion, right? This
Yes.
is the truth, but the people don't tell us this. And so I think we have a generation of youth who are growing up with the belief that they must follow they must follow the passion, only do what they love doing. Like I say, once you do that, you sow the seeds of your disappointment, of your heartbreak, of your disaster, literally.
Oh, true.
Anthony, I'm glad you're here, my friend. Go on, Alexis, please.
Pardon?
So go on. So sorry, I interrupted you. Feel
Oh,
free.
no. Oh, no, it's okay. Yes, it's, I think whatever you do, but this business, writing, editing, publishing, creating, coaching, it's all part of the greater picture, but there's a lot of frustrations. You have to look at, a lot of people go, oh, you can just do whatever you want when you want. No, you can't. There are deadlines, there are obligations. And if you're going to make a living, it's a job. You get up, you get prepared for the day. Um, and it is work, it's dedication, and it is your passion will come. You will understand it. It brings you joy. Um, you know, um, I've met people who said, I wish I could be paid for reading all day long. And I said, well, be an editor, very glibly, because there's a lot more to editing than a lot of people realize. And with publications and the job, and it's work. And some days you have to think of finances, how much you're going to charge. You're going to have to think, how am I going to go about this? Who am I? Where's my market? How am I going to market myself? Who do I contact? What do I say? I mean, and you have to, and what's the most important thing? Follow through, follow up, follow through, and always ask questions along the way. You're always learning, and you have to be honest. You try to solve things yourself, but you have to be honest and be surrounded and try. That just sounds so easy, but you need to have a team of people, that you can call on for encouragement or helping with what you're doing, sounding board, because any endeavor, any business endeavor, any creative endeavor is a very rocky road. In any part that's smooth doesn't last long, or it's just, how do I say this? It's just when I say, uh-oh, this is going way too easy. I'm feeling too good about this. What did I miss? What's going to show up later? And but I really enjoy it because in the end, for me, it's a job well done. And that's the joy. And I think that's where the passion is that I can truly say I'm doing what I want to do. Sometimes when I'm editing and something that's difficult and you're trying to figure it out, that's like, why am I doing this? And then there's days where you go, well, I figured it out and look how great it is. It's really good. The same with writing. And that for me is, I don't even know if passion's the right word. Maybe it is. It's just a real joy. And I just encourage people, whatever your industry or whatever part of this industry is, which is very many faceted, enjoy it and just be open to it, because it's a very fantastic ride. And I'm going to stop for just a moment. Back to you, Annie.
To myself, agreeing with you wholeheartedly. Now, literally, find what you love doing. Forget your passion. Your passion is nothing to, your passion is a pipe dream. You might think it's your passion, but it's not. Like you say, Alexis, there's many parts to running a business, for example. Forget your passion. This is a mindset bit. This is a mindset bit of today's conversation. It's called mastery. Become the apprentice of your trade, of your craft. Learn something. The more things you learn, I truly believe, Anthony, I'm going to come to you next, my friend. I truly believe the more you learn, the more things you experience, then eventually you're going to find something that you love doing, that you love to spend your time doing. Don't believe all that hoo-ha about, you're born with a purpose. You're born. And I'm not saying you haven't got a purpose, because you've got a purpose. I'm saying I don't believe that hoo-ha that you're born with, you have a passion, one thing that you must do. It's not true. It's a lie. You can do many things. Before we went live, Alexis and I were, I guess the way I framed it to Alexis was, could a garbage collector ever love his job? Of course he can. Of course they can. They might just say they get really good at it. And Alexis' answer was, yeah. Maybe if you're the driver of the garbage lorry, maybe that's your dream, to drive big lorries and helping people, right? But I think deep down, we can all love what we do. We have to love what we do. I think but that comes from being so good at it that we enjoy doing it. It's not the other way where we love it so much is why we do it. You see, you love what you do. You don't follow your passion. You just don't. It's a dream. Let me stop talking. So before I come to you, my friend, let me welcome a few more people who are here. So Leanna, I see you, my friend. Always great to have you in our rooms, that superstar. Actually, I appreciate you. It's a Lachelle, American Supermom. Welcome, Lachelle. Thank you so much. Again, Lachelle's got 15 kids. And I say, my conversation today is, what do you tell your kids, Lachelle? Do you say follow your passion, or do you say go and get good at something? Go and get good at many things. And in that journey, my beloved cherub, that's the golden angel, right? Type thing. You find what you like doing that pays you well, like Alexis said, that gives you the life you want. That's how we do it. So I hope that's what you do, Lachelle. Tell me otherwise, of course, please do. So Mike, thanks for joining us. I'm struggling with the shooting. Yes, it's all of our news. That's if I would say we don't even know who these people are, right? Well, it seems bad. US and your guns again. Sean, welcome, Sean. I left you just now, Sean, on Cyrus's show. I thought, are you still there? You can double what I call multi-eventing these days, my friend. You can be 2 events at once. So I was hosting a show earlier, and I was on another show commenting, right? So Sean, are you here, or are you commenting while still being on Cyrus's Whisper Boy podcast? I don't know. If you're here, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Sean. Of course I would. I really would. Sharon Rose, welcome, and says everything is a lot of work. Better to work for your dream than build someone else's. Yeah, I agree. But the question is whether you say you start your working life and you make your dream the only thing you do. Is that possible? I'm not sure it is, Sharon Rose. Yes, I think it's somewhere along the journey, like I say, if you try different jobs, you will find the job that helps you build your dream, the role, the task, the expertise, the profession, call it what you like, right? But I don't think, we can't chase our dreams. I'm 51, my friend. And I've done many jobs, from being a builder, from digging holes, digging drains. But I love that job. And it made me who I am. It made me the size I am, because I was a skinny little boy until I started digging holes and carrying bags of cement like a fool, right? But it's made me who I am. But I said, I love the job. I never dreamt of that. Of course I did. But saying I could easily have done that for the rest of my life, because, like I say, it's one of the jobs I did. I've run a children's charity. I've been a lecturer at university. Yeah. And then to find my way into running my own business, amongst many things along the journey. I love what I do now, doing books. Of course I do. But I didn't set out to do books. I think we have to do many different things to get good at something. Anthony, they do see you, right? They do see you. I'll come to you in a second, my friend. If you love something, you have your craft. I agree. That I agree with Sharon Rose. You have to find a craft first before you can love something. Don't wait to love, to love something, to love a thing, and then make it your craft. That's not how it works, right? Okay, so I'm nearly done. So I did follow my passions for the money. I see you, Mike. Again, I'm not sure following money is a thing, right? I think again, this is part of the conversation. I'll say this: whatever you do, if you get so good at it, you will make money anyway. I truly believe that. I say, whatever, we don't have to have the top job. the rockets, Elon Musk type job, that's all done it to be like that. If we do something really well, learn our craft, as I call it, having been the apprentice who now becomes the master, we'll get paid handsomely, whatever that is we do. Welcome, Dr. Marcia. Of course, I see you. Thank you so much for joining us. A super author, super event host herself, a Christian-based coach. So, and her latest book is out as well. So do connect with her. It is about living your faith and having that resilience through the hard times. Again, part of the conversation today, my friends, is if you just follow your passion, you're going to fall out of love with your passion. And Dr. Marcia's book is essentially trying to help us to keep the faith and keep going through hard times. So Mike says, at the moment, my passion is being gifted. I'll take it. Whatever you say, Mike, I'll take it. But I know you're very good at speaking. You're very good at thinking. You're great at posing questions. You're a great thinker, Mike. So I think that's one of the things I know for sure. Is that what you dreamt of? When you were young? Probably not. But something you're very good at. Whether you call it your passion or not, it's up to you, right? Let's put a couple more. Of course, that could be the anesthesia speaking. You're a great survivor as well, Mike. Clearly, so Anthony and I, we spent time with you, so we know some of your stories. So we know what that means, right? Crystal, how you doing? Glad you're here. So thank you so much for joining us. Have I missed anyone out? I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay. Anthony, talk to us, my friend. How's your evening going?
It's all right. The central AC for this house just stopped working. So for whatever reason, it started pumping out heat in Florida. So that's not good. Yeah, but fortunately, I have one of those little portable AC units here in the room, so hopefully, it's not creating too much background noise. So my room is comfortable-ish, but the rest of the house is pretty terrible. Otherwise,
I feel for you. I really do.
That's just part of life. When something rough like that happens, people want to get all upset about it, but it's like, that just makes it worse. And honestly, it's like you should have expected some amount of things to go wrong over a period of time, and just to kind of look at it and just accept it feels a lot better than to like be worried and concerned about it. But I'm really concerned about the whole love. There's a connection here between like there's love, there's passion, and then there was some other aspect of it. And
mastery is a word I use.
Yeah, no? Mastery. Yeah, and I definitely feel like the hardest. For me personally, I feel like one of the harder things is that you get to a point sometimes where you start to learn that you can get to a point where whether or not you master it or you 80-20 something to the point where you start to get enough of that kind of dopamine feedback. When you put in effort, you get something back from it. And then you can see that you have this option where you can start to create paths to things that you love. And then it starts to become, well, what do you focus on at any point in time? Because there's certain things that I love and I feel like would be the easy route to success or whatever. Like when it comes to my music aptitude, I know that was always a path and that I still plan to make that a major part of my life. But I also knew that if I focused on music, I would, make a living, I would enjoy it. But then to pursue something more difficult, like, engineering, like public speaking, like being able to provide something else would be too difficult for me to start at that point. So I kind of try to create a balance, but maybe I feel like I'm just getting greedy with life. Like there's many different, at least 2 or 3 different areas where I feel like I could definitely put in all my focus and then that would be the thing. But I don't know, like how do you pick between multiple things that you love to do and recognize that passion is sometimes fleeting? I don't know, like I can have a passion for one thing in one moment when I'm in the middle of it, like, when you're saying something and it's just kind of coming to you, you're having the right ideas, you're saying the right things, people are responding the right way. You love that. Like that's something that I definitely love. And so that, need to put work into that, obviously. And then but then there's more to stuff than just what you love. There's all the work that goes into it. Like I forgot her name. I'm terrible with names. The other person that's on here with us, she mentioned that it's like a job. You have to put in that effort. You have to get up every day and you have to put in that work and prepare for it, which I think can sometimes become difficult when you get caught up in the positive emotions of a thing. So it's weird because I'm wondering, how do you regulate those fleeting emotions of excitement and love and joy and just wanting to pursue that, but then not necessarily recognizing how much you need to put into it work wise. And I don't know. I think it's just trial and error. I feel like I'm babbling now. I was just
no. Look, no, really not. You are doing what went through my head when I said the topic. It's all of that. So I don't think you are being spoiled. I don't make it easy for you to see the others on stage by putting you as a big screen, because can't say anything else except that. Alex, I think we agreed. It is managing those fleeting emotions. I agree with you. I really think it is. Because the aim is not to follow your passion, because that suggests there's one thing and one thing only.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think, as you're making very clear to us, Anthony, there are many things that we can get, that we can love. But that comes from, I think, we're on the same side, because essentially, I think you're saying what I'm saying, which is, you have to choose in the end. Yeah. So how do you choose? And then you choose what gives you most joy. Maybe so. Also, you also choose by what Mike said. What gives you the life you want. And I don't want to use money as a thing. It's not the money. It's having the life you want, really. So I'm here today doing what I love doing, because I find doing books, and I'm mixed with these events as well. So the two are intertwined. So we'll do the books and then we'll do events to launch the authors, right? So I've had to get good at both. It gives me the life, or it gives me peace. It helps me earn more than I ever have done. The days when I used to run around saying, "Oh, I can do your social media," no one cared. I still do social media, by the way, for people, right? But I found something, a greater thing that I really like doing, which I can do. I've got good at doing it. I'm sure whether I'm the best, only goodness knows. I doubt if I am, right? But I love, I love the piece, as Alexis said, of putting a book together, helping people to achieve their dreams. Because this is their legacy, this is their dream, their stories they're telling, right? I get to play a part in that journey. And so, but I've had to get good, get better every day. My last book to the book I've just done, they're different beasts, really different beasts, different process. I know that. When I was a kid, publishing a book never crossed my mind. 10 years ago, but doing the book never crossed my mind. 5 years ago, I had a business partner who did the book side. I did the marketing side. Necessity meant I had to do books. I had to publish the books as well, right? And now necessity means I have to help people to write the books, because my friends like Alexis are human and I can't just dump everything on them, right? So I think you try different things, and yes, you're going to have 4 or 5 different things you like to do. Then you choose whatever makes you feel fulfilled, whatever that means, right? Is it money? Is it time? Is it mentality? Is it peace of mind? But the expertise, the mastery is so important. All of that. And maybe you might just fall out of love. Maybe eventually you fall out of love with one and say, right, I'm not doing that anymore. I want to do that instead, right? Yeah. That's all right. But if you follow your passion, you're constrained in a way that is limited. You're tied to this thing that may never be, and you may well get there and find you actually hate it. Many people do. So one of the things I see these days, which it always makes me amazed, I see many people who do what I dreamt of as a child. They wanted to be a doctor, and now they're a doctor, a medical doctor. I'm like, you're at the top of the world. And they're like, I hate it. I want to do marketing. I'm like, what? How? But that's how life goes, right? Alexis mentioned before we went live as well, that we know many people, we all do, they have a degree in something. They don't work anywhere near it. They're doing something they're working somewhere else, and they're quite happy doing something else. So this is why I say we must not fall for the red herring, the lie that you follow your passion. You follow your skills, you follow your interests, and along the journey, you find your passion. Go on, please.
No, I definitely agree. I think as you were saying that, it was making me think about the idea that sometimes I feel like I might mistake passion or love for something that I just got a good result out of. Maybe it's not always money, but sometimes, I'll put a lot of work into writing or typing something out. And sometimes after I look back at what I have, it's like, wow, I can't believe that came out of me. But then I remember how much time I put into it and how much work it was. And then I realized, maybe that's what it's meant to be. Maybe that's part of it. But then there's other things that I put in more effort into, or maybe it doesn't feel like as much effort, but it is. And it doesn't, and it still comes out just as good. I mean, I just think it really comes down to trial and error, really. But then at some point in time, again, you have to stick to it. So I guess, how do you know when it's time to bail or jump ship versus sticking with something, especially if you're someone who has less experience, like maybe you finally found something that you're getting a little bit good at. And so you're starting to get some positive feedback, that dopamine circuit is kind of, pushing your brain around, and now you're waking up with purpose. But, how do you know when to jump ship, when that dopamine starts to trail off, or when it's just not quite what you thought it was, or there's other things available that you just wouldn't know exist until you tried them. But then you're so far up, you're where someone considers you to be successful. You've already made it to some level, but in your head, you're ready to start back at ground zero to find something else.
Yeah, it's a challenge. This is the challenge that we all have, right? I think Dr. Marcia gives us a good direction, a good steer in that, and into how we find an answer. To say solid points: do what you love to do, and what you're good at. There must be alignment. It's like, the mindset bit is this alignment thing, right? The internal and external. It must feel good. It must feel right. It must give you, it must make your heart sing. When your heart stops singing, you can walk away. If you find something else that makes your heart sing even more, no, you do music. I'm saying you go do that. You lose nothing at all. I feel like
I've got three different birds. If this is my heart, it's like three different birds, and they're singing at three different times of the day, but none of them have a schedule. It's just out of nowhere, I'll feel extreme love, drive, and passion for something, and I'm good at it. But then, the next day, all of that feeling is gone. I just wake up and it's the next day. And so then it's,
let it go. And then Dr. Marcia, I love your comments. So passion doesn't equal gifts. Gifts fuel sustained passion. It's look. I think it's giving ourselves the conundrum you have, Anthony. I think that's what I think I'm trying to say that we need to do, right? Rather than constrain ourselves with, this is my passion. Give yourself the options. At least if you wake up tomorrow and you don't feel like doing that anymore, you have the choice, right? Mm-hmm. Most people have no other choice. That's what they say in a job they hate. Whereas I think if we approach the job differently, Alexis, please feel free to speak. If you have a thought as we go along. I think you've unmuted, so.
Yes, and I'm really sorry to say this. I'm going to have to go in a few minutes because another previous appointment that I set. But this right here is my passion. Speaking about the craft and every angle and all the emotions, this is a passion for me. So we're going to have to do this again soon. But Anthony, what you are feeling is in anything that you create, you have these bursts and you have the dopamine rush. And then once you're done, it goes away. And then you create it again through your creativity. That is, and oh, I use the word normal. It is par for the course in any business that is involved with creating, because you put yourself into it and then you have this end product and it's beautiful. But then the dopamine goes down and all the other related, whatever they're called, serotonin and all that, that goes away. And that's just part of creativity. And then you have to find the next thing to bring it back up. And that happens. And by the way, Anthony, I am in the desert, and I'm in Arizona, so I get the AC. I have also a little standalone air fan on myself, so I get it. But that's the thing. It's just creativity and the ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster, ups and downs. And the main thought is to know that these things can happen. You may not know what they are, but something will happen. And you just have to write it out. And how much you want something is how much you'll go for it. And it is. I think you're just you're actually experiencing the emotions that are appropriate for any creative business. So those are my thoughts. And I have to go now.
I totally agree. Thank you so much, Alexis. Thank you for gracing us. We'll learn. Thank you so much. Look, you enjoy your evening. I got a couple of shows tomorrow. I'll send you the links as well. Thank you. You take care. All right.
Go on,
Anthony.
I feel like there's some aspect of it where maybe there's a craving for like obligation, because there's certain times where that feeling, the dopamine, the excitement is completely gone, and I will just discipline through it a day, 2 days, just hours, weeks, just grinding. And then there's this moment where you start to catch something, and then the explosion of like, oh my goodness, look at what I like. That all that effort up into this moment, it brought it back like tenfold. And then it was like, that was so worth it. And then there's other times where you continually do that until you get to a point where you literally just have to, ball up the paper and throw it away, because you look back and the timeline keeps getting further out. The quality keeps degrading. And then you jump over to something completely different and you find yourself, take off or start the process over again. And so it's like, in a scenario where it's left up to me to decide, do I just continue to push through something until I try and get that spark of whatever, or do I move on to something else? I guess it definitely does need to involve creativity, some sort of a more creative considerations, I guess.
Yeah, look, I think that is that push through thing that I think we will need to do more of. Right, I think it's, maybe I call it stickability, right? But so I think when we stick with it, we truly explore how we really feel about it. But I think but anything involves those boring moments, those moments where the dopamine's gone. Of course it is. Even if I'm thinking of say racing drivers like Lewis Hamilton, for example. He's not young. Well, he's younger than me, so I can't say he's not young. But he's not the youngest. It's not in his 20s anymore, right? So, he's in his 40s. He's won eight world champion or 7 world championships. Right, and that's legendary, right? That's legend status. If he walked away from the sport tomorrow, would they say we understand Lewis, right? No, I don't think we'll say motor racing was not your passion. Of course it was, and he was very good at it, right? And he's still very good at it. but he's sticking to, even when he's not winning, even when he's not still winning today. Because he may come back to winning again if he finds the right in a team with a right car. He may suddenly come back and start winning again, right? I think we have to give ourselves that space. But there may well come a time where it's time to give up that line of work. And there's not that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? They're saying I'm not for anyone sticking in a job they don't like. So what I'm really saying is, if we do everything we do with everything we have, give it our all. Give it our all. Keep learning. Try and be the best we can at whatever it is we're doing. That's more productive. That's more mentally rewarding. That's more likely to give us joy than saying to ourselves, for example, Anthony, this is not my passion. I'm not doing it. I'm going to do it half-heartedly. Mm-hmm. If we do that, we're never going to find joy in anything. I think we need to just stick at it for a while, and then we'll know for sure whether this is what we want to do. And as happens in the real world, as opposed to this follow your passion crap, right? You may have to have people who do things that you don't like doing. In business, I don't really like numbers. I can do numbers, but I don't like numbers, right? Someone asked me yesterday, I think they said, what's your analytics? I'm like, what? I know what he said. And I was like, I don't look at numbers. The other numbers I look at when I do my events, when I do marketing, is sales, conversations and conversions. I don't care how many people are in my rooms. I don't, because that's not the important variable, Anthony. What matters in my rooms is that my friends get known, that people like you, like Calm, get known, seen, and the audience will work out that they know you, like you, or trust you, right? If someone suddenly messages you now and say, Anthony, let's have a coffee chat. That's my win. How many people do you get to talk to in real life, right? That's me. So I'm quite happy to employ someone who does numbers. I think this is a conversation every entrepreneur has to face up to when you start recruiting, right? Who do you recruit? Mm-hmm. So we are very apt to recruit people who are like us, people who we like, right? So what the coach once told me, don't do that anymore. Employ people who are very opposite to you, so they can do the things you don't like doing. I'm like, yeah. And again, so if we play that game full circle, Anthony, right? Given the choice, I would be my own employee and have someone else manage me, because I love the doing of what I do. I don't love the other stuff of running the business. So I get it. I know what it is, and I talk about it, and I help people to build their businesses. But I left to it. I want to be the good apprentice, because I love to learn how to do better, how to improve my systems and processes. Right. That's my real joy. Saying that most of the technical stuff, even the people stuff, I don't really like doing. But I have to do it because it's me and my business right now, right? And I've got freelancers working with me. And I'm saying, but we have to pick in the end what we actually want to do. Mm-hmm. We haven't got to force ourselves in like a round peg into a square hole. You choose which parts you like doing and get people to do the other parts, rather than trying to be everything that you're not. Say, Mike, I see what you're saying. Mike says, my passion is poetry, painting, photography, and now songwriting. Yes, your songwriting, Mike, we know suddenly is blown up, right? You have suddenly got really good at songwriting in terms of using the tech that we have. I'm not saying you haven't been writing songs forever. Maybe you have, right? So each of these I've gained some level of mastery. That's an important word. Now, really, mastery. Unless or even if any disagrees. No. Look at that. I know you're very good at what you do, Mike, and you're a serious man. And if you say that's what you do, I would agree with you. I'm like, everyone has their thing, right? But I know your music has. 2 months ago, I hadn't heard a song that you did at all, Mike. Now there's many songs that you've done. I'm like, wow, he did that. Release it, publish it, sell it. So do you chase any of those as your thing going forward? This is what Anthony's talking about, right? And if so, which one do you chase? Do you create a creative service that offers all these things rather than having to choose? I wonder. I said again, and I wasn't. No, I didn't feel forced to choose. Michael, I do see you, my friend. So okay, I tell you what, I'll let you speak. That way, I don't let you fall off stage again. Michael, what's your take, my friend? Do you do what you love, or do you love what you do?
Yeah, well, yeah, I kind of. I'm warming up to it. I'm warming up to it. Um, but I tell you what I desire to do, and that is to. I like dreaming about being a spaceship pilot and taking my spaceship rig all over the universe and visiting every once in a while Annie and his bookshop, which is on some planet called Bookshop Planet. But
I
yeah,
love,
that's what I dream about.
I
Oh,
love. I don't know. But you're an engineer, so maybe you can create this super spaceship that is almost portable, that is practical, that does work, right? Can you? Will you?
can you repeat?
So only a fool will say to you, given that you're a very good engineer, you know
Did I lose
that
you?
it's only a fool will say to you, you're a dreamer. I think if you wanted to really create that spaceship, maybe you could, right? I think the question for you is, do you want to do it? Are you interested in doing it? Do you think there's a need for it?
And then after that, you have to decide how you're going to fund it. You have to get
Yes.
past all of the marketing and the legal loopholes, and
Yes.
and then after
the
employees
reality
that keep it going, and
the reality, right? Which is a
the
whole different
distributor stop sending.
conversation.
Yeah, it's just it's like I love doing this thing, but there's just a million strings attached to it. It's like,
Yeah, none of which I'm willing to do, really.
mhm.
So, and then your vision then becomes just a pipe dream. But I think that we as humans, we have the power to choose where we focus our minds. I think that's what I've learned. But maybe the extension of that, Anthony, is that where we put our thoughts, we can create.
Mhm.
And that's literally anything we put our minds to, right?
Mhm.
The idea Michael has is, I'm sure it sounds very similar to what Mr. Elon Musk had as an idea.
Mhm.
And as is in keeping with humans and human nature, we can, if you choose to focus on it, you can build that thing, whatever it is, right? When you think everything around us was built by someone, was built by people who first had the idea in their head and then turned it into reality, then you realize we are infinitely capable.
Mhm. But people don't always see all of what goes. For instance, with Elon Musk, everyone wants to say, "Oh, billionaire, this, that, the other, off people's backs. But many people don't remember that 60-minute interview that he had where he was talking. I forgot who he was interviewing or who was interviewing him. But he was mentioning the fact that all of his heroes like Neil Armstrong and all of them came out against him and they testified against him. And then you just saw him start to tear up and he was on camera trying to kind of hold it together. But you could see that like all of what he was doing, he was at the verge of tears on that interview, but he just kept pushing forward and saying, you know, like this, we're doing good work. I have my own metric for being able to measure how well we're doing. We're making progress. It makes sense, and continue forward because, you know, when you come up with those ideas, people think, oh, everyone just celebrates. You know, everybody and your mom is telling you that it's going to fail. It's a bad idea. You're going to waste time and money. People aren't going to do this, that, the other. And at the end of the day, you know, they're right. You are going to fail. There are people that are out there. But if you can push past that, which I think is the hardest part, especially with what I'm noticing in my generation, but more so with the younger generation, is how do you know that if you put your mind to anything, you can do it when everything is kind of a relative scale, right? If you put forth a certain amount of effort to get something back, there's this dopamine that you're expecting to get, but you can easily get that from a video game, from TikTok scrolling. You can pop a drug. You can, you know, you can do all these different things. And so how does someone who's never gotten to a point where they've actually struggled, failed, struggled again, you know, you fall down 9 times, you get up 10 times before they finally create something that they're proud of, to know that it's possible? And then
I hold on. Let's hold that thought there. I think I love that question. It's in itself, right? Because I think the way the way someone who has never been there before does it is it's awareness. It's mindset coaching. This is why I talk in this room, right? It's, you know, someone may well get steered, get stirred, get to realize, like I said earlier, we're infinitely powerful. We can do anything with our mind to. You know, and so if you have that dream, if you have that vision, you can create it. You know, it's whatever it is. And so that's why I didn't poo-poo Michael's idea. And so if he truly put his mind to it, he really could create genius. I think that, you know, that's our gift as humans. You know, it's how everything around us got created, right? I'm saying that's, you know, I want us all to know that, you know, which, you know, brings me back to our question today. Do you create what you love, or do you love what you create? Right.
I think if you love what you're creating, then you'll continue to create it until the end of you.
I agree. You know, well, maybe okay, I'm going to show a video for you. I'm going to show a video in a minute. Now, Dr. Marcia's book, you know, it's been launched on the 14th of September. I had the book in front of me just now. I still got the book in front of me. It's called My Faith Looks Up. And it's for those who feel like they're losing bits of themselves on their hard journey, you know, which I'm sure we'll feel that way. That's what I like when things tie in to our conversations. It feels like coincidence, but I always say nothing's coincidence. Everything, you know, is almost ordained, right? You know, it's meant to be. We're here for a reason, all of us. You know, but I say that. But this definitely question you asked, Anthony, is fundamental, right? You know, what do we tell our kids? I tell my son, anything you want to be, you can be, but you must first create that clarity in your head. You know, again, you know, what you see in your head is what you experience in your life. You know, that's just the way the world works. Like, then anyone who doesn't believe that, you know, you're just restricting yourself. So hello everyone, thank you. So my sister Jada, an amazing author, just released her book. You know, AI Auntie is her new name. And I said we co-authored on that book behind me, Lessons We Learned from COVID. So whatever you do that well, exactly that. And I know, so that's at the heart of everything we're talking about today, right? Do whatever you do, put it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not for you in the end, but if you put it all in, that's the only way you're going to find ways to get paid for it. I agree. I couldn't say any better, right? The things to develop and implement your business acumen strategies that align with to align that income flow within the right product with the right products, even digital, that shows that what one does well. Right? No, I agree with you. Look, we're very good at saying it's not my passion. I can't. I would just do. Yeah, well, I didn't dream of being in these jobs. I'll just do what I have to do, the minimum. I think we have to learn to put it all in every time. Put it all in. Go for it, right? Because and put it all in means heart and soul, and also, maybe a bit of pain. We have to be willing to suffer for a bit, right? To really get good at this thing or not. And then if we walk away, we walk away. I mean, so I could give you so many examples. I mentioned digging holes when I was a kid, right? I loved digging holes. I never dreamt about it, but I got good at it, right? Because I got bigger very quickly, And could I dig holes? Could I dig holes now? Probably. If all else failed, Anthony, I'll happily go and be a builder, man. I spent the last 20 years doing building stuff, decorating stuff, because I learned some skills when I was a kid, where I put it all in. I didn't know anything about mindset then. I just knew that to succeed, I had to put it all in. I think that way of being has a knock-on effect on everything else you do. If you're work shy in one role, chances are you're going to be work shy in other roles. Whereas if you are all in, you become the person who goes all in whatever they do, and then you become good at it. Like you become good at many things, and then you have a real choice. Life becomes your oyster, as we call it, and that's what we say in the UK. So before I go to Zara and Mike, go on, Anthony.
I just wanted to say one thing. When you were saying to whatever you do it well, I'm not sure if it's just my generation or younger. It almost feels like, and I know exactly what you mean by that. But I think like a little thing to add to it would be to say, whatever you do, maybe allow yourself to do it poorly a lot of times, but give it your all. Right? You're going to do badly.
Yeah.
No,
Okay, I was thinking, what do it poorly?
Yeah.
No, I agree. Look, The Apprentice starts one day. All apprentices start one day. I use that as the starter, the beginner. Mike with the music, Zara, was writing books, me with doing books. You are gonna be not good at the beginning. Don't go saying this is my passion. Everything's about mastery, not passion. I say again, right? And you're gonna have to learn how to get better. And you have to actively, intentionally get better by learning and doing. I don't say that lightly. I was shocked, Anthony, right? The first book I did, fine. Client was happy, it worked out. Second book, I was like, because I realized, being honest with myself, that first book, I didn't even know what I was doing, but it worked out. Lucky me, lucky us. I think it got to my fourth book where it just wouldn't work. It just did not work. It took me 9 times to get this book right. I just didn't. I couldn't work it out. It's hard to explain. When you do books, right, Anthony, you got option. There's tools, right? You got tools to use. You can just take your book, dump it into a Word template, and say, right, publish, right? Of course, you have to get the template must be right, for example, to make sure, right? Yeah, so when I put my second book and third book, and when I put the fourth book in the template, it just didn't work. It looked good on screen, or when in print, the font was too small. So I'm now playing with the font, thinking that's the issue, right? It never worked. So nine attempts later. This is 9 proof copies later. This is Paulette's book. I'm not willing. I don't hide it, right? But I learned a lesson. I learned many lessons. And I had to change my system entirely. And there were days when I would literally, because she would call me crying, but she wants her book done, right? She wants her book to be. And the husband was saying to her, "Are you? Let's just go someone else." I'm like, "No, I'm so close. I just know I'm so close." And I was close. I just didn't. And each time the book came back as a disaster, because they get the proof copy before I do, right? As a client, they're the ones who order and pay for it. Each time it came back, Anthony, I learned something else. Right? The font matters, for example, right? The position matters. But so I had to just keep learning bit by bit by bit. But so my luck, and I guess to your point, is that she was willing to give me the time to learn. What everyone else is saying to her, ditch him, get someone else to do it. I was like, no, I'm getting there. Trust me, I'll get this done. And I'm like, we're there. The next proof is the right one, right? No, so this is why I love. If you wonder why I love Paulette so much, is because she gave me that chance. We don't give ourselves that chance half the time. We're not willing to learn. We're not willing to fail. We have to be willing to fail to learn anything. Anyway, look, I see you, Noni, Miss Pepperoni. So glad you're here. Zara, I love your comment. I know you're in the studio. You can share with us. Zara says, passion says, paint your soul. Reality says, paint the client's logo in 5 sizes by 3 p.m.
So
This is why I love Zara. It's how you say stuff, my friend. You're a genius. Look, let me show you a quick video, and then so this will give us some steer that for the rest of the conversations, and then in the other 20 minutes we have left. So feel free to make notes, and then let's bring up what comes up for you. Right, here goes, my friend. 3 minutes long.
Follow your passion might be the defining advice of our time. Its proponents include Steve Jobs, people with passion can change the world, to Mark Twain. Find a job you enjoy doing, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. To follow our passion holds the promise of work that's meaningful, but perhaps doesn't feel like work. But recent research challenges this view. There are 4 reasons why you shouldn't follow your passion, and what you should perhaps do instead. 1. Passion can be a trap. A 2015 study showed that having passions dampen interest in areas outside people's existing interests, so risking getting trapped in a passion we outgrow and not giving the chance for other passions to emerge. Intriguingly, the study also points to something else. Of those pursuing a goal, those with passion for it gave up way sooner than those not passionate. Turns out the first group became more easily disheartened because they expected it to be easier. The researchers describe it as urging people to find their passion may lead them to put all their eggs in one basket, but then drop that basket when it becomes difficult to carry. 2. Passions often emerge through action. How many times have you started doing something you're not sure that you would like, but you ended up loving it? If you told me 10 years ago I'd be passionate about career coaching, I'd think you were kidding. 3. Pursuing passions can turn them into a chore. Participants in one study were split into 2 groups. Group 1 were told they'd get $1 for each puzzle they completed. Group 2 to spend time on the puzzles only if they wanted, and with no cash prize. When individuals from each group were left alone, those getting $1 per puzzle completed far fewer than those receiving no cash. As psychologist Ken Sheldon puts it, when you pay people to do something, it makes them not want to do it. And this is true for passions too. Pursuing a passion doesn't necessarily make work fun. 4. Pursuing a passion can lead to higher levels of burnout. Research looking at over 3,000 workers across 12 organizations found that employees driven by passion were more likely to have higher levels of stress and lower levels of well-being. Now this might seem weird because they're doing work they really care about. But as the organizational behaviorist David Whiteside explains, despite the clear benefits of feeling meaningfully connected to your work, our data suggests that there are often real and undiscussed complications of purpose-driven work on employees' health and burnout. The more we care about something, the more likely we are to sacrifice ourselves for it. So with 4 reasons for why pursuing work with passion might be a bad idea, you might be forgiven for thinking we should just go out there and pursue work we don't necessarily care about. Well, that's not necessarily quite right either, because a lot of the research points to the need for more evidence. And frankly, if you have a passion, it doesn't hurt anyone, earns you money, you can be flexible and it fits around your life, it's hard to see that as a bad career prospect. But we don't all have that option, and we might still nonetheless want to avoid the negatives associated with following our passion. So how might we do that? Howie Yashimovitz and Menger's writing in the Harvard Business Review recommend looking at a career as a conduit to passion rather than a source of passion itself. And perhaps my favourite approach comes from Julia Korn. Commit to learning and relearning what energizes and drains you. By dedicating yourself to what sparks your interest and what doesn't, you can more easily align with a successful career path. Finding our path is often messy. It's a result of taking action, taking chances, allowing ourselves the opportunity to get lucky, learning from those experiences, and iteratively moving closer to work that works for us. Take very good care of yourself, and I'll catch you next time.
My argument, in a nutshell, that's why this show is right. And I found the video after setting the show, by the way. So my thinking about this topic was directed by, I guess, the book called "Be So Good They Can't Ignore You." Right? So that's the book that Carl Newport wrote that book. And he makes his argument really is forget your passion. Be so good, become the master apprentice. The apprentice becomes a master. That's the route to happiness. And that's how you get so good they can't ignore you. And so this video just ties everything together beautifully. Mrs. Zara, what say you? How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you. It's like I'm doing great. I'm very happy to be with you guys, Sir Annie, and Anthony, and my brother from another mother, Mike. It's 3:30 a.m. my time, and there's a very quick video, okay, about the passions and everything, because today I travel 130 kilometers from north to the south within Lahore. Passion. So let me just live. It's not going to be that big, but then I'm going to, Annie, we will be talking about what passion. And the first video is like, I thought maybe it's just one, but no, it was 2. So here we go. How do we share this? Okay.
Yeah, I'll put it on screen quite happily. So Mr. Calm, I do see you. I know you're here. So let's put Zara's video on. Okay, what's a way to learn? What's a way to learn, my friend?
And I will tell you. And then there is another video. I thought maybe it's just one in the bag, right?
Okay.
But then, yeah.
Okay, I'll put the second one on now. Okay, hold on. This second one,
So,
I think.
my point is,
Okay, go on. Your point is
okay. My point is, passion it's an energy, it's a flame, right? And a very slow flame, which is burning. And Annie, I've seen many educators here, professors, and education is not their passion. But when they started mentoring students, they found the purpose. Likewise. Um, I may be like very, because a voiceover artist who can, with a curiosity. But when I started telling stories, I found my purpose. Um, Passion, a slow burn, like I said, is burning slowly. So if somebody has only one passion, it's not going to last very long. Like uh, Steve Jobs, you quoted some of the examples of Steve Jobs, that he said, love what you do, and then you don't have to work for any one day, another day. And and on the other hand, he he was working for years for something that was not much glamorous. But later, after like 10, 15 years, he he found that meaning in it. What I mean that when passion um, collaborate with the purpose, that's when the real magic happens. The passion, I thought, it, it can never be any one thing. Like I'm passionate about traveling within the city, 130 kilometers from north to south, to see what is happening around, to see many people, to see each universities, colleges, students, and the bulk of students. I'm passionate about building Pakistan's safe image, and challenge those rigid minds who still ask me sometimes, is Pakistan safe? I'm passionate about telling people cross borders that there is a lot here that they can offer, that they can teach, they can mentor, they can coach, they can do here in this part of the world, whether they are single mothers, single fathers, or whatever they are. It's nothing about, because we are living in this era. I'm passionate about like challenging their perceptions and perspectives that grow up. We are in 2025. Uh, so what I found out, if somebody has one passion, it cannot long last. But if you have multiple passions, then slowly, you find the purpose in it. And that's a little share. And about the goat thingy is like, I thought maybe it's just one, but later I found another baby on the next bag. So I hope I make some sense here.
It makes a lot of sense to me with the multiple passions part. I'm sorry to cut you off, any, but there was when it comes to anything we do, if we do it repetitively, it could be your favorite comedy skit, you watch it over and over again. It could be reproducing without the reproducing. Eventually, it gets kind of worn out. It's like you need some downtime in between what you love to actually kind of build up that love for it. To not have it just be, it becomes it's the novelty. If you have multiple passions, then you have multiple areas where you can still find a way to direct your energy in a way that doesn't get burnt out, which I mean makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know if I explained it as well as I wanted to, but that's what I felt when I heard it.
You,
I vehemently disagree with the the video. Let me explain why, because I'm talking about something. I'm using passion in a bit of a different way. So I had asked the question: are we living in an abundant or scarcity mindset? Doing what we love should come from an abundant mindset. We have been sold a lie about security in the scarcity mindset. And like when I think of Edison, or I think of Elon, or regardless of what you think about it politically or whatever, these guys had an undergirding passion. So what passion for me does is it forces me, if you will, to to Annie's point, we have to learn. But there's something that gets us over the hump, so to speak, of failure. And it, for me, that's passion. So there's an underlying, and it's also a passion, by the way, for looking for other solutions. Like I said, Edison was like 2,000 times that he had. Did he lose passion for trying to create the electric light bulb? I don't think so. So I guess it really depends on what we're talking about, as passion, because I think there has to be something, whatever we want to call it. Anthony had called it discipline. Well, I believe passion to some degree is the foundation for the discipline. And I think that having the abundant mindset, in other words, one thing we haven't really talked about is in a scarcity mindset, we believe that we have to do it all. I'm like, well, what about looking for, asking for help, or looking at where other people have succeeded? Maybe not in your exact, vertical, but look at how other people maybe have done, been successful, and take a lesson from them. So that's all I had to share relative to that. But and even the video says, maybe let your passion guide guide what you're choosing, and not get. That's why I'm like, I'm not locked into any one of these things that I'm interested in, and my passion is helping others and being a lifelong learner.
So if I
Yeah.
could, I think there's a difference between something like having passion or experiencing passion, and then something that you're passionate about. So then there's something that I can be passionate about, but I don't necessarily feel like a sense of like I don't feel very passionate. I'm not expressing that. I'm not feeling it, because even though I might feel very passionate about this endeavor, the aspects leading up to it, I'm not very passionate about. And so, you still have to keep your mind, I guess, your mind is in the mode of what you're actively doing. And so I can see where there's kind of that yes and no aspect. If you're very passionate about something, then nothing will stop you, because you'll always be driven toward it. But if you're not passionate in that moment, because passion is just I looked it up, a strong, barely controllable emotion, and emotions are fleeting.
I like that. Look, I think deep down, Mike and Anthony, I use the word love intentionally, right? I think you have to find a love for this thing, whatever it is, right? And I also think, Mike, we have to make choice. We need to make choices. We choose what we want to do, what we want to love. We choose what we want to be passionate about, Anthony. To put it in the passion word, right? And Mike, you reference Edison, for example. Yes, of course, the light bulb was his thing. We know that, right? But he didn't invent it. Of course, he didn't invent it. Someone else invented it. And his thing was to refine it and make it usable and safe for, the light bulbs as we have it today. To make a single light bulb actually not burn, not blow up, which all the others did, burn out or blow up, right? And again, I'm thinking that Edison had 2,332 patents, different things he invented. In other words, he didn't do one thing, Mike, but you know that already. He didn't do one thing, right? He did many different things brilliantly. I'm saying our passion is not just one thing. I don't think it's a word of lack. I think, it's, there's some version of reality where, we can be good at many things. We can love many things. That's the abundance angle I take from, in this conversation, Mike. We don't need to restrict ourselves to one. Again, Elon Musk is not a one-trick pony. Elon Musk is a many-trick pony, from PayPal to Starlink to Tesla. I'm saying, right, this. Maybe the passion is serving people, as you said, Mike. Maybe I don't know your passion. Maybe that's what it comes down to. Well, what are you willing to do to serve people, and what are you willing to struggle through? Go through the pain, go through the process of learning, the process of becoming. I think that's the real conversation, Mike. Please feel free.
Well, I'm going to agree with the word love, and I'm going to agree to disagree on the passion, because to me, passion is beyond just a momentary feeling. And if that's the way we're defining it, then I'm going to agree with what you're saying about passion. But ultimately, I'm driven. I would say one of my primary purposes is relationship. I would say it's the primary purpose. I'm passionate about that. I also love it. So I maybe I'm using the word in a slightly different way that you guys are choosing to do it. But and to your point, I agree with you. There was Edison didn't have one. He was a greedy little bastard. I mean,
It was a clever git. That's what we call it. A clever git.
I mean, I don't know if people know, but I mean, it was incredible. Like the movie, he was responsible for movies and all sorts of other inventions. But so yeah, but I still feel that he was driven, whatever we want to call that, whether it was love, I call it passion, because he was driven to do, all of these various inventions. And to me, or Einstein, or any of these well-known people that contributed to society, even the founding fathers, and on and on and on. There were people to me that had a deep and abiding energy, and that's what I'm calling passion. You're saying basically, okay, that's kind of a one-off, and that's where maybe I'm disagreeing. But yeah, I believe that you need to have this underlying foundational energy, whatever we want to
I
call
agree.
Love.
With that, I agree for sure, right? No, so with that, I agree. So
Annie,
LinkedIn user, I can't see who it is yet. I'll come to you next. Is that you, Sarah? I'll come to you in a second. Now, LinkedIn user says, if your job's worth doing, do it well, giving your heart, soul, and soul. Even if you don't succeed straight away, keep going. Key to life is knowledge, then skills. Both will balance out, all right? And look, I agree with you entirely, LinkedIn user. So, I wish I knew, which of my LinkedIn user friends that is. And so I love what Connected Sciences says. Thanks for joining from YouTube, my friend. Do like and comment on today's video. Of course, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Maybe you have. This is normally Crystal's friends, Chris Bay's friends. So they love what you do and work harder than you ever did before. And then the tools become lighter in your hands. I love that.
I heard someone else say that before. I actually said that in response to love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. But
yeah,
then I heard someone say that, and I was like, that actually makes more sense. You work harder than you ever did, but it's easier. You're like obsessed with it.
Yes.
Everyone's just trying to get off work, and you're dreaming about it. You're thinking about it on the drive. You're brushing your teeth, and you just can't get it out of your mind.
Yeah, I see you, Annie. Look, I think that it's easy to get waylaid by words. And I say Steve Jobs called it passion. I think, and that's why I call it passion. But I think, you call it drive, Mike. I think I like drive. I think that's another good word for it. I heard you say discipline earlier. I think that's another one. So choice could be what we're talking about, really. But if left to me, I would use the word will. It's that strong will. It's that and the will to do, the will to be. That's what truly fuels human behavior. Now, drive is the same word now, really, in a different kind of in a different load of letters, but the same meaning. I think, Mike. I'm sure we can agree on that. It's that thing inside us that gives us the drive. That makes us run through walls. For what we really want. But let's not get stuck on the words, right? Annie, welcome. So now I know it's you. How you doing? Glad you're here. So Annie said, "What you reap, what you reap, you sow." Simple as that. It is that, right? It is that. Mrs. Zara, sorry, I interrupted you for a time as you were talking.
It's like loving what you do, right? Like sometimes I remember we, in the last moment, we used to have a sick leave from one of my colleagues, and that last moment we have to, like, do his work also. Now you're going to do this, you have to pivot. But and you pivoted, right? And there's so many times that Annie is there's no one in the rooms, but Annie is talking, right? And Annie is giving his messages, loving what you do sometimes. But it's like I wrote in the comments, like, okay, your passion is like a wild horse, and loving what you do is like you're sitting on a donkey, and and sitting with a grace, right? And but now who's going to be a little louder? Well, let's see. My point is, uh, Mike said, okay, some people get fame when they die. And then he said something else, that we are adding here comments here in Annie's room, uh, so that more people can have reach. My Pakistani fellows, connections, and everybody, they are going to have reach. Do I speak with love? My point is, do I see with love? This is what I was saying to Mike in the comments. Do I serve with love? Do I love without conditions? Uh, and then he said something, Mike said in the comments, and he said, or maybe a fool. Maybe I'm a fool or a fool, right? But, as far as this fool is speaking truth, he's not a fool.
Hmm.
When
I
passion
agree.
finds
I agree.
purpose, when a
It's
passion finds purpose, it all goes along.
I think more fool us who doubt people and what they're willing to do. So and I come back to that will again. That again, love is a different word for the same thing. That Lisa, I didn't see you. How you doing? I'm glad you're here. So Barbara as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. Right.
Zarar, for those that don't know, the in the king's court, the role of the fool was to be the truth teller. They had, in essence, sort of special permission, although they had to be careful. Very much sort of like comics
Truth,
as opposed
truth,
to
truth with
today.
conditions. Truth with
So
conditions,
they,
right?
Yes,
they
You
truth
might, you
with
so
might,
they are
you might
cool.
lose your head.
So they are cool.
So no, and Gerard's comment was, I'm a hero," and I said, "or a fool." So yeah,
No, you're funny.
And
Mike,
then
you do boost our posts, our comments,
you know what, Annie?
tremendous.
Then I said, you're a no, or a cool. I kept him positive.
It's all right. It's all right. Now, Mr. Calm, you said you started talking earlier, but we lost you, but you're back. What's your take on our conversation, my friend? Do what you love or love what you do? I know you spoke about your spaceship,
Yes.
which I
Okay.
said is very possible if you put your mind, if you choose, now, if you develop everything we talked about so far, if you develop the will, the want to really do it, you
Indeed.
could exceed and even overtake, Mr. Musk, who's
It's
created the
it's it's
spaceships.
it's possible, But the most important thing, that everybody needs to understand, that it's even if you do not attain your goal or attain your target, it is um the journey that is most important. The significant fact is that you are following your passion. You are loving. You're trying to prove your theories, and even if you fail at proving your theories, you always the fact is that you're still passionate about it, and you remain chasing that thing that you want to get done. But you're not always chasing it one way, you're chasing it the other way. In other words, you're incorporating change. Every time that you fail, you change. You change until you get it right. And then when you get it right, then you have to go a little bit further. But then at the same time, you're gonna stumble again, and then you have to change and react to it. Change, change, change. That's all you're going to be doing, going back and forth until you can get to what you need to, until you can get to where you need to go. Not all of us are going to make it, but I tell you what, all of us are going to have a fantastic journey just trying to get there. Our
100%.
lives are going to be meaningful because we
Yes.
tried, we failed, we tried, we failed, we documented what worked, what did not work, and the rest of the world would, is still going to benefit from what you did.
Mm.
It's the journey. It's the
Yes.
fact that you're actually putting in that effort to actually do it. So you do require, like some of you guys indicated, you do require passion. You do require discipline. You do require all those things that that make a journey well worth it. Collaboration to make things quicker. Because in order to go to a place, you can go alone and you can go quickly, but you don't go far. You can only go far when you're working together. If there are multiple people working on the same project with you, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who have the same passion as you do, or the same idea, or the same direction, or the same vector. They want to go on the same vector. All of you going, you'll get there you'll get there. Not necessarily faster, but certainly get there because you're all putting in the effort, and the energy you put in is not going to be as significant because you're all putting in the energy and it adds up. So I
Yes.
do believe that, I was thinking, just thinking to myself how lovely it is that all of you have come on board and are actually spitting away about what Annie has been trying to communicate. It's like we're in the wild, wild west, and everybody's trying to get their ideas through it. So everybody's just mouthing off and saying, "Yes, this is my idea. And this is why this is significant, etc., etc." Yeah, and then the other person says, "Yes, and this is why it's again." Now we all have to listen, but now you're trying to figure out, okay, you're not only trying to outdo each other, but at the same time you're trying. Yeah, the effect is such that you are actually enjoying listening to each other and grasping from each other and learning from each other and at the same time I believe later on when you go back into your sleep and you ruminate about what you just heard, you incorporate a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this of what you learned into your systems,
Mm.
and then you move forward and do and pursue your goals like that. Now you have changed. You yourself have changed because other people have incorporated change into you. So I think this is just marvelous. Annie, this is wonderful. What a wonderful group
Yeah.
of people that you got together, and I really appreciate what they're doing. It's like I said before, I'm a seeker of knowledge. I love asking questions because it's the only way it's the only way I can learn by asking questions, finding out the answers from other people. I do not necessarily have to learn it on myself by myself. If you've already learned it, then you can tell me, "Phew, that's a lot of energy off my plate, and I can get there. I can go further because of it. I don't
Mm.
have to spend the time to actually pursue that particular vector. I can jump into another one and
Mm.
actually, but still incorporate the vector that you've shown me because I'm going to use my intelligence in order to do that. But I certainly appreciate the fact that you've given me a push or you've held me up a little longer. It's kind of like you would be my pillars as I'm facing, like, for instance, if I was in a storm, who would be my pillars? You would be my pillars, helping me, you know, stand up to the storm, helping me get through it. That's how I see it. You are my collaborators. And I, in turn, I'm your collaborator. When you have
Yeah.
your storms, I will be there standing with you, for you, holding you up. So
Yeah.
You can make it.
No,
We
you know,
elevate together. But go
yeah.
ahead,
No,
Annie.
I
Go
think
ahead.
this. I think this is this medium especially is brilliant for co-creation. I think Mike mentioned co-creation earlier, where we all create together, also creating with the universe. I said, of course, I agree with you. There is no, yeah, there's no point reinventing the wheel because then there's no point making the same mistakes as others have made before. That's why we share. But I will say this, Mr. Calm, that you are part of the co-creation. You're part of us. That put effort in to share to help each other and all of us learn, right?
Yeah.
Mike, I see what
I
you
was
say.
actually what you're talking about. I was actually having a conversation with
Mm.
um Lady Faria Noor. She's the one who posts very viscerally about Africa. And I did indicate to her that, there's an issue with Africa is that, especially with regards to men and our failures, yeah, we don't talk, we do not communicate. We do not we only communicate in gatherings where, it's our own peers, but we don't talk to women. And we don't talk to our little boys, the ones that grow up. We actually tell them, no, you need to stay with your mom until you grow up to, when you're grown up enough to be to stand with men, then you can find us, and we'll groom you to be more of a man. But I don't think that's the way it should go. I think, and that's in Africa. I don't think that's the way it should go. I believe right from the very beginning, these boys should be with men and should be learning from men and understanding. We're very, as men, we are very tight-lipped, and we go through our experiences and trials and tribulations without talking. We think that it's gutso not to talk, or we think that if we do talk, somebody else is going to steal our ideas and or steal our thunder, and then would be at a loss and would be, that would be an opportunity gone. I don't know where that idea came from. It's kind of like, isn't the point that we all elevate together? You know, that's what I'm thinking. Isn't that how the ancestors got through their trials and tribulations? They all worked together in the past. That's
But
that's how that's how they moved, isn't it? I think that's how
Michael,
they did.
I think this goes back to the concept of the abundant versus scarcity mindset. If we believe
Right.
in scarcity, then you improving or elevating somehow denigrates or causes me to be lesser, and that's huge. That's hugely wrong. And I've seen it in my corporate life for about 40 years, and I'm hoping that, I mean, that's one of the things I'm trying to do is change that mindset.
Yeah. I
And so
remember that when you mentioned that, it was something that I really loved, and I still do. I'm very passionate about those words that you just mentioned. Scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. It was so enlightening for you to actually say that it pushed me in that direction, so to speak. And I've maintained that vector because I believe it is absolutely and utterly right. It is not. there's- I I believe that the direction that you're headed, Michael, and that you want the rest of the universe to head into, especially in regards to that, is absolutely correct. There's nothing else I can add to what you're doing, aside from the fact I can support you. And I will most definitely, at any time, moment in time, space, and opportunity, I will support you. That's all I can say.
If I could jump on there, I think there's one other aspect aside from the idea that someone else will get what it is you have and then you'll lose it. There's the vulnerability aspect, the idea that if I say something and people don't agree with it, or it doesn't sound right, am I going to be challenged? How do I handle dissent? I think there's a lot of aspects of things where people realize, especially the higher up they go, that they don't know everything and that they can't always be right, and they're afraid to look and be wrong, especially on the spot. And so, but that just keeps you in your ignorance. If you were ignorant, if you had 10 ignorant ideas and you threw all 10 ignorant ideas out to the world, and people returned back and said, yeah, 9 of those were crap, one of those, whatever, you just learned 10 things. But if you keep them to yourself, then at least nobody knows that you had those 9 stupid ideas, but at least you still get to maintain your, I'm a man and I'm this position, and nobody should question my authority because I am the top. But I think the top requires the understanding of the base level, the lowest level of being wrong, learning, being open to communication.
Look, I will say this. My friends. I do see Curtis. I'm going to come to you in a second, my friend. The irony is that there's 6 men on stage. When men don't talk, yeah, how weird is that, right? I'm saying, obviously, men do talk, right? And I'm hoping technology will bridge the gap that you mentioned, Michael, between what we think, the knowledge that we hold back from kids, for example. But so let me tell you, I spend time with my son. He's 16 now. So I said 17, so 16. He's over 16. Between his birthday's in February, he'll be 17. So I say 17. That's his problem, right? But I think tech will bridge that gap. If things like this, if platforms like this will demystify that bridge, it exists. We're willing to share with our kids, and our kids will gain. I don't know whether it's the knowledge, interaction, the engagement that will help them in the end. Look, I'm just dying to call Mike Shirley. That's what I come and stay up there all the time. Now, this guy, Mike, his family in my echo chamber, for which I'm grateful. He also has a cool name, frankly. Don't tell him that, Mike. Don't tell him that. I'd rather call him Michael, right? And don't call me Shirley, he says. I just want to call you Shirley, Mike, so I'm all right now. I've moved on, right?
All right, Shirley. Okay.
Yeah. Brothers sharing love, yeah?
He put it there. I didn't think it until he said it. Mr. Curtis, welcome, my friend. How are you doing? Great to have you on my stage.
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How's everyone else doing? Thank you, Eni, for the invite, sir. Appreciate it.
Superb. I'm glad you're here. And I'd love to have your thoughts on this topic. Do what you love or love what you do.
Yeah, that's a lot there, man. I think that initially, I think it was the title or something, the title being authentic, be your authentic self. And I think that I believe, at least from my research and just my own life experiences, that before a person can do what they love to do, there'll be many versions of that, many layers of that. And at different seasons in our lives, that's going to look differently at each respective season. And but I think this love walk, this authentic walk, is being refined, just over and over. It's being refined, and it's kind of like where a parent tells a child not to touch a stove, which the parent obviously knows that it's hot, but a child in essence will test the waters, and at some point touch the stove and say, wow, mom was right, daddy was right, the stove is hot. And so I think this is that refining process that we all have to go through. And so in order to do what you really love to do, where that you are not working as people, as I've heard them say, that so you're not working a day in your life, you've got to find your purpose. You've got to find your purpose. And does the purpose change over time? I don't believe so. I think that the purpose is the essence of who we are and what we've made up. And this is my assignment in this lifetime. And I think, again, as we work towards that space of loving what you do or doing what you love, again, there's going to be many versions of that, and things that we're going to identify as, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. I love my work. I love the people I work with. But then after a while, something's just like, wait a minute, is there something wrong with the people? Why don't they don't like me? Why don't they like me? Or, you find yourself making those adjustments. And a lot of times those adjustments are not even about the other people. It's more so about the things that we're, where there's their internal conflict. And that's not always a bad thing. But nevertheless, there's a conflict that takes place, and ideally, I believe that conflict takes place to, again, that is part of the refining purpose, the process that we all go through. Some people might say, hey, I went through a depression and I went through this and I dealt with this, I dealt with that. And it's not to say that depression and all those different things that people are dealing with, it's not to say they're not true. This is not what people are dealing with, but I think that most of the world, and many of people in the world, even including our doctors and scientists, people in general, they just have not really understood the process. And then sometimes when people get uncomfortable, they can find themselves, well, I need to go to the doctor. And the doctor does what? He, in most cases, prescribes some kind of drug to alleviate the feeling, but possibly causing something else. But I think we just have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and reaching out to people and say, hey, this brother went through, or this sister understands this, whatever, she went through something similar, and being able to trust the process. But in order to get to the space where you're doing what you love to do, we're going to have to peel back the layers and remove all the things that we don't love to do, or remove not only the things that we don't love to do, but the things, the truths and the lies that we were told about ourselves. And I think that it really is a process of where we're having to uncover and find out who we truly are. But I believe that's the only way that we're going to do what we love to do. Other than that, it's going to be as if this person is inauthentic. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's just a mask that we choose to cover up, because it does take a time to figure out who you are, and during that process, in most cases, we can't pull to the side of the road and get things together. We've got to get things together while we're in the process. And sometimes that process looks ugly, man. Sometimes it doesn't feel good, and we're going to lose friends and break up in relationships and all these different things. But it is a process, and it doesn't mean that we're being inauthentic as people. It's just, again, going back even to the Garden of Eve, or where Adam and Eve covered up with the fig leaves. And again, whether or not a person believes that story, that's not the point. The principle of the matter is that there's a cover up, not only from how we respond to ourselves, but there's a cover up in regards to, again, uh, a veil, so to speak. Where we're having to go beyond that veil. But again, that process it's not always easy, and just because people are, there are some people who, yes, absolutely being inauthentic, but even with them, there's grace and mercy for them as well, because in most cases, what they've been given is what they've been given as part of their culture, and the world has told us how to hide in the most wonderful ways. And I'm being facetious when I say that, but yeah, again, just all in all, just I think it takes time. We have to be kind to ourselves along the way, and not be so quick to judge another man's challenges or things that they're going through, and learn how to love on each other.
Everything you say, my friend, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I said, Mike, I think you say it very well. Mike says, I'm trying to vigorously agree with my brothers on stage. I call this generative discussion. That's what it is, right? I suppose generative AI, which creates the conversation for us on paper, right? Now, Curtis, I think you make many amazing points as always. I can agree. This is about living your purpose. So, but I talk about living your purpose, which I believe is in your dreams. I think your dreams is, it contains what the divine has designed for us. Possibly. I say that deliberately, right? I think even Michael said it himself. That yes, your purpose is something that you may have that you can give to the world. Serving people normally is everyone's purpose. That's I think that's the highest order of purpose. In that, but it's a journey, and I think the journey, as you're saying, Curtis, I think it involves being curiosity, try different things. There's no one way, one route to get to that purpose, to get to. And I guess all of this comes down to, again, Michael mentioned it when he spoke a few minutes ago. I think this comes down to us becoming the person who does that, whatever that is, right? Now, in answer to your question earlier, Anthony, are you that person? What are you becoming? Are you becoming the person who does music? Are you becoming the person like Mike? Are you becoming the person who does poetry, who does, when I say, I think we have to become, but then the route to that, to becoming, it involves curiosity, huge curiosity. Us looking at different places, different routes, different careers, different activities. But ultimately, it comes down to taking action, right? To taking those steps, doing something. Let's not, we can't just think and become. We have to know what this is what we spent the earlier parts of the show talking about. You want to become, you have to do, you have to learn, you have to fail, but you have to seek it out. Again, I think the big point I think I take from what you said, Curtis, which I think is probably the thing I want to emphasize today. No one said any of this is going to be fun. The follow your purpose thing suggests fun. No, it's called work. It's not going to be fun. It's really going to be fun.
Absolutely, sir.
It's work and learning and putting in sacrifices sometimes. Some people don't like that idea. But I think, we have to put it in.
You recall that Sam said, put joy in suffering.
Yes. Which sounds rather strange. See, for those who believed in this following your purpose thing, Michael, they don't believe, they don't envisage the suffering at all. They think it's going to be hunky-dory, plain sailing every day, cigar in your mouth. No, it's going to be whatever you choose to do. It's going to be hard work. You're going to, my pain is my gain. That's why I look at and I say the same words you're saying, Mr. Calm. So we have to be willing to suffer the pain to gain something. Funny how many things in life are the results of our pain. Whether that's things that we've gone through that haven't worked, things like illnesses, failures, disasters. But ultimately we learn and then we become a better person for it. Go on, Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what you're saying, Annie. I think it's absolutely powerful, and I think that we have, in essence, surrendered to the purpose as an idea, or to still, following your dreams, and to the point what you were saying is that we think it's going to be a bowl of cherries and just ice cream and wonderful time, or at least you said a cigar in your mouth and all that. But the reality, to your point, just you made seconds ago, it is going to come with pain, and without the pain, there is no following. There's no coming into your purpose, and unfortunately, that pain might mean abandonment. That pain might mean rejection issues or situations we're dealing with our parents. It might mean where you've got a serious breakup, or a man's dealing with, just dealing with his own stuff, his own insecurities. And these are the things by I believe the God uses to drive us towards Him, to drive us to feed and to walk into who we really are. And not to mention battling all the lies that we've been told, through even through religion and things of that nature. So there's a lot of layers that need to be peeled back, man. And but it absolutely does come with pain, though.
Yeah, no,
No,
I totally agree. Go on. Whoever's unmuted, feel free.
if I could, I was gonna say chasing your passion might be like a bowl of cherries or ice cream or anything like you mentioned, because if you literally just ate a bowl of ice cream or whatever candy you wanted, how long before your stomach was upset, before you end up, with cavities and then you can't eat? Eventually it comes to bear some sort of pain for you trying to just continually reap from the same tree. Like, you have to pick from different trees, you have to move to different places. If you don't allow yourself to accept that pleasure only exists because of pain, like darkness only exists because of light, good, bad, left, right, up, down, nothing exists without its antithesis. And if you try to focus on just the one thing, you miss out. And I think that's not religious really, but if you look at just reading through that first part of the biblical text, they talk about what suffering is, and suffering doesn't seem like it's created to be a punishment. The idea of it is that if you want to be able to create, you have to be able to know the difference between what is good and what isn't. Otherwise you're just creating anything. And so how do you know what's good? It feels good. Well, how do you know what isn't? It feels the opposite. And the only way for you to create something that is truly good is for you to truly know what the opposite of that is. Otherwise, it's like watching your favorite show over and over again. It's like if you and your girlfriend just decided that you were going to just go at it forever and never stop and take drugs. Eventually, by a little bit of time, it becomes it's like, this is just work now. I by round 2 or 3, I'm not even enjoying this. This is work. I'm sore. My back hurts. Like, like you realize right away the best parts of life don't just let you keep. It's like a tree. You can't just keep picking fruit off of it endlessly. You have to water it and wait for the season to come back around. And in the meantime, you got to find some other tree to take care of and pick fruit from.
Yeah, great point. Great point, Anthony. Excellent, man.
Yeah, Dr. CJ, I see you. Welcome. Glad you're here. I was in a show with Susanna earlier about communication and how the role it plays and how to, I guess, communicate properly, right, in a way that helps all of us. Now, fascinating show. I'm sure everyone's connected to Dr. CJ. If you're not, my friends, that's someone you would definitely want to connect with for sure. Teaching Tech, I don't know who the person is, but thank you so much for joining us. Have I missed anyone? Hopefully not. Mike. There are too many. Mike's gone. I guess I'll let you give us a summary of all your comments, Mike, if you feel to. I will say, I think this is important to me because I'm going to Ghana next week on the 19th to go and share this message about purpose and finding your purpose to Ghanaian children and young people. So I can imagine, many will take it literally, but I hope they can understand the realities, which is what we're sharing today, which is that it's a long, convoluted road. It's not a one-trick thing. However you look at it, it's not a one-trick thing. That's all. It's going to be, learning, doing, and learning some more. Doing, failing, and almost losing ourselves on the journey. Life is not a bunch of roses. So I don't know. Part of me is happy that we agree on what it really means to do what you love. You have to find, and you do what you love, not no. Let me change that. You have to love what you do, right? You're not going to suddenly wake up and pick something and find something that is just that you're destined for, and you're going to walk into. That's not how life works, right? It's a journey that we'll go on. And that journey involves us all changing, us learning, us becoming. I say again, that's a big thing. What are we becoming as people? It's when we become that we'll have a chance to find what we love. And I think in the end, the twins shall meet. They have to meet, right? In the end, you have to do what you love, and then and then you love what you do. Those two can't stay apart forever, unless you choose to do nothing or stand still and expect that bowl of cherries, which is not going to come. You have to go through life for what life is, and eventually you're going to find something, and whatever brings you joy will find you. That's a real conversation, right? I hope the kids get it. I really hope they do. I'm sure no. All I'm going to do is do my best to just tell them as best I can. It's my first time being on a big stage, so yeah, whatever. I'm ready for it. Even if I screw it up, as long as I say the main things I want to say. Dare to dream, dare to do is my message, my friends.
Hey,
That's
My
what
friend Annie, you have 6 men on stage who you can project this little conversation.
I
While you're
have.
there.
I've been doing it for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
I have the conversation, it's close, it's similar. So I'm minded to talk in the next room about finding your purpose, for example. What does that really mean? But I'm also minded to talk about what you mentioned earlier, Michael. What makes collaboration really work? What's the real thing in collaboration? What are we missing? Curtis, I see you flash your mic again. So I'm very sensitive to people flashing the mic. So I would know if you flash a mic, I tend to say, okay, Mike as well. So let's go to Curtis. I'll come to you, Mike. Mr. Curtis, please feel free.
I was just going to say, any is that I think the best thing that any of us can do, even with our our own sons, if you have sons, or even speaking to other groups of people, is to really put ourselves in their shoes,
I agree.
and remember what, hey, we were youth also, and I think as adults we can sometimes have a challenge with that, and because we can't put ourselves in their shoes, it can be difficult drawing the parallel or the relation, finding the space to kind of bring out the best part of a conversation, or just begin building on that relationship. Being that if we're not able to place ourselves in their shoes and just recognize that, hey, you know what, I was that young person who just didn't know if I was going forward or backwards. At also, that just from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important conversation. Anthony, we've got our room tomorrow talking about masculinity. That's a topic that Curtis, I'm sure will happily explore. He thought that that's his topic, hook, line, and sinker, right? I mentioned that because, I wonder if the generations have brought fundamental change to what childhood used to be. I mean that sincerely. I'm wondering. I really am wondering, right? I say that because I have no idea whether the people who were the people who were kids in the 1800s before that were very different to the 18-year-olds today. I might say yes, of course they are, right? They were. They're different people. They're different beasts completely. I think the point I'm trying to make, Curtis, is that I think our kids have almost evolved, in the way they think, in the way they communicate, in the way they be. Which I think, going back to Michael's point earlier, when you base your your thinking, your behavior, your approach on culture in that way, you might get stuck treating people who are very different the same way as those before them were treated. I hope that makes sense. And I know what I'm trying to say. Literally, our kids have moved on. Let's to try and give you a context. When I was growing up, everyone believes you have to beat kids. You have to beat them to make them learn a lesson. Anthony, you and I have discussed this a couple of times already, right? But today I truly don't. I think it's a crime to beat your kids, because kids, they're more aware, they learn more, and they respond more to communication and relationships, like as Curtis just mentioned, than being whipped and being. I just don't understand. Some people will disagree with me. I know Michael might disagree with me on this one, but I say the kid I've got, I never had to beat him. That's an amazing thing. He punished himself more than I ever punished him. So that's a different level of being a kid these days, which is it's very weird. Before I come to you, Anthony, let's go to Mike, just so I can keep some sense of order. I'll come to you, my friend. Mike, go on, my friend.
I was trying to figure out how to wrap up some of my thoughts. So basically, it comes down to a couple things. First of all, I think, and I repeat this a lot, is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so when we are looking, whether it's children or business or personal relationships or whatever, friendships, if we're not doing that, we're not really bringing our best selves to that interaction. And it's not easy because we have to do what I call steel manning and star manning. Steel manning is when I take Ennie's idea and kind of repeat it back to him so that I understand what he's saying. Star manning is going a step further and saying, what is behind what Annie is saying and maybe even feeling? That's a lot harder. And again, I think that takes more interaction. But this concept of seeking first to understand, then to be understood, I also believe is the genesis of actual influence. If we're interested in influencing another, which I think generally we all want to be seen, heard, and valued, and part of that value is bringing some level of influence into the discussion, to the interaction. I also wanted to say I completely agree with. So I'm in vigorous agreement with the brothers here. With what Michael was saying about it being a journey, because and Curtis, I think we're not static beings. So we're going through life, we're learning, hopefully we're growing. And again, I'm going back into this concept of abundance and scarcity because I think a lot of times we may think being the operative word, that we don't have a choice. And that in a mindset of scarcity, our choices are limited. In a mindset of abundance, they're endless. And then this thing of life happens for us, capital 4, not to us, capital 2. This includes suffering. And I've been through some areas of suffering in my life, and I think 1, it's brought me empathy, and 2, I believe that there's probably typically, not always, but typically, depending on what's going on, there's a lesson. There's a lesson to be learned, and if it's not a lesson for us, maybe it's a lesson for other people. Maybe we're going through this, and this is really hard to believe, but maybe that we're going through suffering to offer wisdom to someone else.
Yeah. My pain is my gain. My favorite words. It keeps me in the struggle and keeps me coming back. Despite the struggle, right? Like Curtis, I think we lost you for a second there, my friend. Look, thank you so much, Mike. It's a complex one, but it's not really that complicated, right? It is, us being authentic, as Curtis said, being our real selves, as we do everything. From there, we learn, and we have to expect some struggle. When we use the word struggle, it sounds like pain, but it's more. Let's say, I think it's part of the process of, as you say, Mike, learning something to become something. Develop empathy, for example. Develop humility. But ultimately, the hard times are part of the good times. No hard times. You said it earlier, Anthony. No hard times, no light, no dark. Right? You can't have one without the other. The good times have to come with the hard times. Go on, Anthony. Then I'll go around the room. No. Your last word, my friends, before we go.
It might have been, I think it was either you or Curtis, because I'm just trying to take in the information. And what I was hearing is that kids nowadays think differently, But I think one of the biggest things that I recognize is that the thinking is the same, but the tools available have changed. So there's still the same there's still the same inquisitive nature. All kids want to know why, or they see their parents acting a way, they have their own particular judgments. But before, if you had any sort of alternative opinion, what you go to your grandpa, maybe you go to someone down the road, you have very limited options. If you had a question, you had to have coins for a parking meter and coins to pay you had to go get a book from the library if it was there and use your finger. Now I can speak words into the air and I can get a document or whatever, a video from China translated in my language. I can live in wartime and then see what it's like to have peace, education, and money, or vice versa. And so when you have all of that, and then you try to communicate from a position of knowing or trying to believe that we know is the issue. I think when it comes to trying to when he says seek first to understand, then to be understood, after you try your best to understand them and you haven't been able to communicate effectively, to be understood isn't to tell more about yourself that you think they want to hear. It's to be vulnerable. It's to look at them and think to yourself, and again, putting on their shoes, which is difficult. Sometimes while you try to put on their shoes, you have to admit that you have no understanding. And then you relinquish some of that. You're not being fake, because kids are extremely intuitive. And the things that we think we can get away with because we do it with other people, not with kids, especially if you live with them or if you interact with them consistently, they will see it and they won't forget it. So I think I'm sorry, you got me so excited. I feel like I wrote down like 10, or I started writing down. I was like, there's like 10 different conversation topics here. I found it that I was like, all right, I think I know how to bridge this gap really well, because I've been playing stepdad for a while now, pretty effectively, I think. And the things that I've learned by just communicating with a 13-year-old boy that's like, he's 13. And so, like his life is so different now, because even for me, I still had a lot of technology that it didn't come till later. I had a period of my life where I was riding scooters, go-karts, bikes, down, building stuff in the tree with wooden nails you dug out of a dumpster. Like now it's completely different. And so it's not that they think differently. It's just that they get their information differently. And being vulnerable is the best way, I think, to communicate with them, and I think with other people that you don't understand. So that's my passion, I think.
No, I think being authentic, being authentic is the way. That's being real, being your real self. Wearing a mask and say pretending, and there's also it's trying to come across as authoritarian. I think is a problem.
But I believe what Anthony has said is also he's also trying to communicate that he's engaging their empathy. You need to build that for a better world.
I agree.
And if you don't, because there's a huge mistake that we're doing, that we've done in the past, when we've not engaged the empathy of men, and that's led us down to a path where we're having folks who are saber rattling for no reason, for no rhyme or reason, aside from the fact that they just want to saber rattle. But if they had empathy and thinking of others, etc., we'd have different mind. That mind frame would be different, and we'd be going down a different path, as opposed to the paths that we've recently been led to lead, or led to believe that we should walk on. It's not right. So that's I really applaud you right there, Anthony, and I implore you to continue, not only with just one, but with many. I certainly appreciate.
I will. If I have a quick question for you, what is was it save and rattle or save and rattle? I didn't.
Saber rattling. So.
Save the rattling.
Yeah, fighting with our sabers, our swords.
I'm sorry. Say that again. What does that mean? I'm not familiar.
So there's a fighting with two men fighting with swords. Saber rattling. So.
Okay.
The thing that Chinese people in Britain do.
Yeah.
Ignore him. He's British in our hearts, really. Ignore him. No, look. Michael and everyone else here, please do join me and Anthony tomorrow for our conversation masculinity. You know, so I mean, no, you got the fact you got topics down. I have more topics down for my rooms as well, Anthony. So you know, let's. I'm sure these things will come out naturally in our conversation anyway. So, so the first
Well,
one,
Anthony, for that saber rattling, follow up on medieval tales from Great Britain. I think there was a place where there was a book that had Annie Osung's name as the author of
I'm
medieval
not that
tales.
old. Stop making me sound like I'm geriatric. You know, I'm historical. Yeah. I'll leave you with that. Nah, Mr. Zara, please. What do you want to leave us with today, my friends?
Ya Ghaffar, Ya Rahim, Ya Qabidu. See, one, I was thinking about so many things that has been said. How do we define education? Because everybody is talking about the tools, and Anthony was saying like maybe, yeah, we cannot handle this new generation the same way like how our parents handled us, and this is so true. But yeah, Ghaffar, I mean, I have like nieces here, and they're growing them without their mother, right? And yes, we can see the difference. Like um, they ask more deeper questions to us in a very young age. So now they're the same kids. I mean, maybe long back, how do we? I said, how do we define education? Where you learn one half of your life just to learn how to spend the other half. So Mike said, it's lifelong learner, uh, lifelong travelers, lifelong wanderers. But um, my point is, okay, with this ever evolving technology and trends and whatever is going on, uh, shrinking the years into months or days, right? But people are still pursuing degrees and titles and everything. But my point is, are we not relying too much on the tools? Because we still have orphans here, and back then, 50 years ago, right? But are we not taking this new tools and everything straight away to our nerves? Um, and when you simply go to Google AI and you search somewhere, I mean, that's the worst generative AI I've ever seen. I mean, most dangerous one. My point
Yeah.
is, uh, yeah, uh, okay, that AI native culture, for example. Uh, but we still have sober, companionship. We are still here together, all together. But when you guys say people have different narratives, different cultures, different language, and different religions, it reminds me of something that again and again I keep saying you guys that um, we are brothers in faith or equals in humanity. I mean, um, my point is, wonderful is a man who speaks with a piece of meat, sees with the fat, and listens from the bones and breathes from a tiny hole. My point is, it's not possible to remember everything what everybody said, but yes, happiness and love for everyone.
Yeah, again, I think the intent, right? Authenticity. Maybe I want to believe that we are inherently good in our heart. I think it's and anything else. To have different intentions, I think is a strain. The strain on who we are. I love what Mike says. Say knowledge doesn't always equal wisdom. And AI is probably clever now. It has more knowledge than all of us because it brings it all together, right? It's a wisdom that we need. The speed of gaining knowledge isn't always a plus. And see social media as a mind virus. I agree with you, Mike. And I consider looking to our village for wisdom. Just in other words, I agree on being authentic, transparent, and truthful. That's what I'm trying to get to, Mike. Thank you so much, my friend. You're all geniuses. I am. After doing your show with Mike the other day, Anthony, I'm host events, right? I'm here to have fun. I don't think too deeply, but of course, clearly, I have to engage in deep thinking. But you lot help me to think deeply because you're the deep thinkers. Have you done your invites, Anthony, for tomorrow's event? Do I have to show you how to do your 1,000 invites?
I sent out the invites to some people, so yeah, got a few coming.
Excellent. So I haven't got to show you. That's all right. You know, it suddenly crossed my mind. You know, so I will say this, Anthony. I think many people misunderstand or underestimate the challenge of step families. I've got one, and believe you me, I know that's a whole different parenting game. A whole different parenting game. Like, it's every step parent deserves an award. No, really, because it is anyway, it's the hardest road we're ever, it's the hardest thing probably we're ever going to do. You know, struggles, my goodness. You know, if you struggle as a parent, you don't, if you, when you're a step parent, you know what struggles really mean as a parent. You know, so hat off to you, my friend. It's a little talked about thing. Again, I'm sure this is a topic for Curtis one day, if he chooses to go there, that is. Mr. Curtis, what do you want to leave us with today, my friend?
Hey there. Great conversation, Annie, and for the other gentlemen. And the questions that have been asked as well. Great conversation, man. I've got two things to say. When I initially spoke on regards to Annie, you just kind of remembering, hey, you were a youth. Essentially what I was saying, and I love Anthony's response to it as well. Essentially what I was saying is that there at some point are core principles that we receive in life. And I think a lot of times, as much as the tools can change and how we, do different things, and as Anthony said, how we can speak to, say things and now document or speak to this theory and say that the documents are created or brought forth on our screen or something like that. Those things are wonderful, but I think oftentimes the tools are an overshadow for the principles that are to be given, and oftentimes these in the years past, before you and I were thought about, these principles were given in stories, and I think the storytelling or the story piece of it has been forgotten, and to think that or it's the technology, or it's this, all these things that separate us, and in fact they're just different tools, but at its core is the principles that we as men have drawn from life, and we have to be prepared to tell those principles in different stories, and regardless of the tools being used, be it in the 18th century or currently. And just one last thing here. I think that pain, it's kind of what I was saying earlier, pain is going to be a part of the process. And what I mean by pain being part of the process, I kind of felt like I needed to kind of expand on that. And what I meant by that is that whenever you're dealing with, Annie mentioned culture. Culture in its scientific term is to take a specimen from a plant or some kind of object or subject, whatever, and to replant it, or to take that culture and put it in a petri dish or replant it somewhere else, whatever. So that's where we get culture. But my point here is that whenever we as people have a particular train of thought, and this is what we've known for X amount of years, or what we've grown up with, and we were always corrected with a certain in a certain way by our parents. Don't do this, things of that nature. And whenever you're trying to incorporate new ideas, whenever we are trying to incorporate new ideas, there's absolutely going to be conflict. So out with the old, in with the new, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be pain, there's going to be discomfort. And so just in a nutshell, that's what I was meaning. So even though those things come by way of knowledge and words, as we are applying this communication or applying what we've learned, it absolutely can cause physical pain to our bodies, because we're having to uproot ideas or things that we were told, and eventually settle on something that we're uncomfortable with. But just because we're uncomfortable with does not mean that it's not the right place for us to be at. So
100%. The only thing, like, I just to give you some hope, the stories have remained, but they've moved into a lot of novel allegory. There's shows like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, that'll tell you like, okay, when you get injured, but you come back stronger. Stories about the guy who had this weakness, but he put in this effort to try to get better. They have all of these stories that span over so many different shows. But right now, there's this idea of like, oh, that's this imaginary world where I play video games. The whole reason why you play it is for the challenge. It's for the journey, not to get to the end. Any movie you ever watch, Harry Potter, it starts off with the guy in the basement. It's hard. Then they challenge themselves, they go through, and then they make decisions. All these things are there, but they haven't been connected, I think, to their day-to-day life yet. But otherwise, I'm going to
Yeah.
stop talking now because I like to talk.
Yeah, excellent point, Anthony. Excellent point.
Yeah, no, thank you. Know, again, say, the wise men is why I call all of you. You know, I learned from all of you. Mike, please, Mike, the mic is yours. You have your last word, my friend.
Well, I want to bounce off a little bit of what Anthony was saying, in that I'm not sure. Well, I see a couple changes in the, at least when I was growing up, there was respect for elders. And I'm not saying that's a one-way respect. I think he mentioned it's really important that we have empathy. But I think what's happening is what I call the velocity of information as opposed to wisdom. So when you're being bombarded really with all this information, we don't really have time to kind of sort that out and get the truth, and I'm doing air quotes. And what we used to do back in the day is we would look at our elders for wisdom, and that wisdom in many cases was life experience. Now, as we grow, and I'm hoping that the vibration of the world is moving in a positive direction. It doesn't seem like it when you look, at the news. But again, I think that's a manipulation of what's going on. But I don't want to go into that right now. But I think what's happened is that the speed of information has really overrun us, and we've lost. And this is what I was trying to get back to the village, is that our children back in the day, really far back, we would be raised as a village. We had extended families. Even in my lifetime, we had grandparents with us. So we had our parents, we had our grandparents, and so there could be a gleaning of wisdom in a slow down, so to speak, velocity of information. And I don't see, and I'm not a Luddite by any stretch of the imagination. I'm deeply into all the technology, but I think we have to be really careful about how we're using it. And one of the things that I think is completely lacking, and I hope no one's using this, like ChatGPT, as a source of empathy. We know that there's already actually been issues of suicide because of that. So empathy and love and reaching out to the younger generation is extremely important. I also happen to be a stepfather, and that's a very unique situation. And I'm happy to say that that young man is now a papa himself, and I am really proud of him and how he's stepping up into being a father and a husband. So there is hope. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, there's more than hope, my friend. You've done good, is what I'll say to you. You've clearly done good. So anyone who survives and gets to the other side, you have my hat tip for sure. It's a journey. It's a journey. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, Anthony. Mr. Calm, do you want to have a last word? If I fall off, my friends, no, my internet fell off. I'm gonna say I got different devices.
We love you, Annie.
I love you more. I tell
Don't
you.
worry. I'm sorry. but the gentlemen that you've had on board have done a marvelous job. So I'm not going to
They
say
have.
much or
They
say
have.
anything. It's
Now,
it's uh, it's
they
all
We
have.
hands
love
to the
you,
gun.
Anthony. We
You're
love you,
part
Anthony.
of you're part of it, Mr. Calm. I couldn't do my shows without you, my friend. So I thank you. I thank all of you. It's it's not. I would have loved to have someone come on stage and do the passion argument passionately. You mean in a determined way? It's the one who come up and say it's all about following your passion. Here's why. But I'm surprised. I think no one came to say your passion is everything. But you are wise men, as I said. So I'm not surprised, really. But I thank you all. I say that Zara. I say I will end with your comment. Passion is a flame. Loving what you do is it's like dancing in the light. Even if the music is offbeat and the audience is mostly HR people. And if your jobs feel like a spiritual test, congratulations. You're employed. Yes, yes. And don't stay employed. I think we're empowered to create. That's something I definitely take from what I've learned about life right now. That's where the infinite potential and possibilities really happen. So I will say this, my friends. As the video says, when passion emerges out of action, this is now that's all about taking action. Take action. The more steps we take, the more we learn, the more we become what we give us joy. And it's in those actions that we find our purpose. We find the things we love doing. But we must keep doing, right? If we those who don't do, a lot,
We love you, Annie. We love
so
you.
a lot of people just talk and they never do. I say, and I say, I'm glad to be amongst all of you, and I dream of a world that hence this Ghana conference thing. I'm talking on stages. I dream of a world where someone hears us and goes all in, 100%, right? All in, and their life changes. That's what I dream of. It could be one person, could be it could be a lot of people, but that's how I think the world would change and become a better place. With what we try to do by sharing our insights, our knowledge, and our experiences. But look, my friends, I will thank you all. So do join me again in 2 weeks' time. I'll work out whether to choose the purpose conversation or the collaboration conversation. I'm minded to go with the purpose conversation. I don't think we've talked about that. Any time or anywhere that I've been to online lately. If you have, let me know, right? But my friends, thank you so much. Do enjoy your night. Do connect as well. Of course, do connect. Now, Curtis, you have to invite us to your show sometime, right? I hope you will. And invite my friends. And they don't invite me. I'm not smart enough. My friends, though, they can add something to the conversations, the serious chats that you have, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, everyone in the audience. I can't thank you enough. My YouTube friends do the right thing, right? Connecting the sciences. You're a legend, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. I said respect for Mike. How do you respect someone? Respect
Well,
for Mike.
I can
How
help
do
fill
you?
that in. That was with respect to what he was talking about with the children not having respect for elders. I was saying from their perspective, how do you respect someone who lives in existence you dread? They have less
Yeah.
answers than the number one authority you can pull up on your phone. They lie about magical stuff like Santa. You find that out from your friends, and then yeah, and then like they can Google anything while you complain about like how hard it is to afford things and the president this and the price of gas. And so it's like, how am I going to respect you when some kid is a millionaire on YouTube because he made video game whatever? They don't have a perspective outside like where for you guys it was survival. Like how do you get to the next step? You had to
Yeah,
listen.
it is the imperative on all of us to take action, to be better, and to live our best life. To truly, I think finding purpose is at the heart of being a man, and maybe being a woman too, right? I say, I think many of our deficiencies as a gender is those who don't find that purpose, whatever that is. They don't find peace, they don't find joy, they don't find the success that you're saying the kids will now might be looking for. Somebody they can look up to, someone who's actually done something, right? It comes down to finding your purpose, and our purpose is there. It's in front of us. I say it's our dream. What's that thing we dream of? It doesn't mean having things. It means becoming that person who does great things. I tell you, it's a different conversation that we could carry on all day, Anthony. Enjoy your night, my friends. Take care. Take care. I'm indebted to all of you. Take care. Bye bye.
Hasta luego. Hasta luego.
Thanks for all the airtime, guys. I love you. That was a lot of.
Love you
Good night,
too.
guys.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
That was easy.
I like that. Why are you not playing? My video is not playing. It's not doing what I wanted to do. So this is why I knew my screen was going to go funny. Okay. If it's not going to play, then I can't do anything about that. I'm going to have to end the show anyway, my friends. Take care. Is my show going to end? I wonder.